Later that night, you found yourself seated near the kitchen counter. You had gotten a bit of scolding from your moms for not saving any of Mr. Holden's gift for Elizabeth, but you didn't get any real punishment for it. Instead, while you were out with the boys, Elizabeth returned home to share the news. The three of them went to get dessert on their own. It was declared even by your parents when everyone got back, and the event was settled. That was a while ago now. Phone. Your fingers drummed on the surface as you waited, your gaze trained on the phone. You were waiting on a call tonight, specifically from your cousin Leandra. You didn't want to miss it accidentally. Your uncle, aunt, and Lee used to live many hours away. Your families only saw each other a few times a year for big occasions. A while back, though, they'd moved and were closer to you than ever before. You now hung out regularly. With school being out, you're positive she's going to want to come over a lot. The two of you were the same age and got along well. She used to be really fond of Elizabeth, too. But now that your sister had become allergic to interacting with her own family, it tended to be just you and Lee who spent time together. She was your only friend who was a girl. Being family helped make you close, but you had a lot of girlfriends. She was your only friend that was a girl. You weren't a girl yourself, so maybe that was why. But you had plenty of other friends, but you didn't really have a lot of other friends either. Ma always said that quality was more important than quantity when Elizabeth bemoaned your small social circle. You weren't sure how friendship quality was judged, but nevertheless, you thought that what you had with Lee was good. Then the shrill ringtone announced an incoming call. You jumped before grabbing the receiver and pressing it to your ear. Lee, finally! Who is it? Rose Residence, Risa speaking. Hello? Sure. You're greeted by a distorted, high-pitched giggle.
What?
Aw, she's so cute. Why do you sound so weird? Mom answers the phone like that sometimes. It's supposed to be polite. You should just go with hi. That was something a robot would say. There was a static on the end, as if Lee was shifting wherever she was. So, can you believe school's actually over? I thought it'd never be done. Now we don't have to do any of that boring stuff, and we get to hang out whenever we want. Speaking of hanging out... Lee, can you wait a second? Let me just head to my room.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got up from your seat at the counter. Luckily, the phone was wireless, so you didn't have to worry about any cords tying you down. Your mom's had a rule about not moving the phone unless a call was in progress, which was why you'd been sat by its cradle waiting for Lee to call. Your mom's could be really unfair. You thought that made sense. You didn't like it, but it had to be that way. You weren't the only person here. If anyone could take the phone anywhere at any time, it'd be an even bigger hassle. You could easily imagine the receiver having a new forever home in Elizabeth's locked room. But now that Lee had called, it was okay for you to go upstairs to your bedroom and talk to her. You made your way upstairs, smiling. After you had arrived, you shut the bedroom door firmly behind you. You took a seat on your bed. Alright, I'm here. Cool. Hey, did you know the girl down the street from me has her own phone now? A cell phone. She doesn't have to wait for someone else to stop using it or anything. Wow, really? The thought of someone having a phone that was all their own seemed unbelievable to you. Right? I wish I had one too, but my parents said I couldn't get my own phone until I'm more grown up. I wish they'd change their mind. We could call each other every single day and no one would be able to stop us. How great would that be? Really great. But wouldn't I still be using a home phone? Right? Too bad that's so far away. But wouldn't I still be using a home phone? My moms would be able to stop us if they wanted. Lee laughed. You didn't put a damper on her imagination. Oh, then you have your own phone too. That works. She sighed dramatically. I bet I'm not going to get one until I'm all the way in college. She squeezing the phone between your shoulder and ear, you puffed up your pillows and made yourself more comfy. It was strange to think of a time when normal school would be over and you'd have to choose whether or not to go to a college. School was such a big part of your life right now. Studying didn't come easily to you, though you tried hard. You worked as hard as most people and got pretty average results as well. You never tried much, but you still didn't do that bad. You didn't bother at all in school, and your grades reflected that. Everything in your classes came easily to you. You worked hard for your excellent grades. For me around that age, things came kind of easy, and then got harder later, because I had zero studying skills. You soaked up information as naturally as a sponge absorbed water. You had yet to worry about school being hard for you. You felt a lot of pressure to maintain the high grades you had last year. You hoped to do just as well this year, but it wouldn't be a big deal if they dropped some. You were confident your grades would remain great. You had no plans on getting excellent scores this time around. You hoped you'd do well, but it wouldn't be a big deal. You had a positive record. It wouldn't be worth it to stress over every mark. Yeah. You tried to sound engaged, but your mind had decided to go back to school despite the season. Lee knew you too well to be fooled. You sound so spacey. What's up? Just thinking about school. Lee groaned. Are you thinking about how we don't have time to think... Are you thinking about how we don't have to think about it because it's summer? That's what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to going back. Let's make a petition for more vacation off time. It's so awful I hate going. Come on, it's too scary not to think about it. Let's make a petition. Yeah, everybody in class would sign it. Maybe some of the teachers, too. Though, I guess school isn't all the way bad. You can do some good things there. You can just do more when school's out. Learning new things can be cool. Gym is pretty great, though. It's the easiest way to hang out with people not in the neighborhood. Cafeteria lunches at my school could be better than they had any right to be. There's nothing good about my school. Learning new things can be cool. I just wish everyone did okay with how they taught the things, not just some people. Yeah, a teacher can make or break a class, for sure.
Me too.
Me too. Gym is pretty great, though. It's the easiest way to hang out with people not in the area. Sure. If I didn't go to school, I'd never meet anyone new. No one really comes here. Uh-huh. But that was all. That's pretty much everything that's good about school. Okay, point taken.
All right.
Now, I decree the topic of school is officially closed. We have to talk about this summer first before we start plotting the rest of our lives. I've got some plans already. Like? I'm gonna visit my cousins. He chuckled, of course. What's something you want to do? The first thing that comes to your head. I want to spend time with people. I've got some new art supplies. Oh, art. Reading. I'm gonna catch up some movies and TV. I'll probably spend some time at the beach. I don't want to do anything at all. It's a vacation. Vacation. Lee giggled. Aiming high, huh? Don't strain yourself. You leaned back in your bed, settling in as you continued chatting with your friend. Even though it hadn't been that long since you saw her, and you'd be seeing her soon, you found plenty to talk about. For one, the events of the day. You sat up straighter. I was with Cove and Derek today, and we met a new kid. Like, at your neighborhood? Mm-hmm. His parents are visiting family, so it sounds like he'll be around for a little while. I don't know how long. What was he like? Mean. He kept snapping when all we were trying to do was talk to him. He just kept being rude to everyone, but especially Cove. Whoops. I don't think I want to meet him. You want a boy to stay away before even meeting him? That's an unexpected twist. Your cousin was pretty popular with the boys who knew her. She seemed happy enough to have them around, until they started to annoy her. Who are you to talk? Cove and Derek are always around. They're both boys, you know. That's true. That's not the same. They're not always around. I'm not the one who invites them. They show up on your own. You weren't able to say anything to that. That's not the same. Lee laughed at your rejection of the idea, deeply amused. You shut your eyes tightly, feeling embarrassed about her reaction. There was a stomping noise approaching your room, heralding the arrival of your irritated older sister. She flung the door open, a frown etched on her face. How long are you going to hog the phone? Glancing at your watch, you realized that your quick call had gone on much longer than anticipated. Elizabeth held out her hand, the other one lodged on her hip. She noticed the realization on your face. Time's up. Let it go, I'll see you soon. With a sigh, you said goodbye. Sorry for being long, I'm still using it. No, get him. Get out of my room. With a sigh, you said your goodbyes to Lee. Lee, I have to go now.
Bye.
Okay, see you soon. Tell Elizabeth and your moms I said hi too. You barely pressed the end call button when Elizabeth whisked the handset from your fingers and began dialing someone new as she strode out of the room. Your mom's voice called from downstairs. Hey, has anyone seen the phone? I'm using it. With that, she shut your door behind you. Silence was left in the wake. That was one way to end your first day of summer break. Breakfast was eaten in peace and alone. Your moms were both out by the time you had gotten up. They had left you a serving of food from the breakfast they'd made. Hash browns, an omelet, fruit salad, and there were a few sausage links. Took a little bit of everything. You passed on some parts because they weren't the things you liked. Passed on some parts because you were trying to avoid meat. You passed on some parts because you were trying to avoid animal products. Let's see, vegan or vegetarian? Let's go vegetarian for now. Your parents still made most of the food choices in the house, but they worked on accommodating you since you've started talking about becoming vegetarian. You added some extra things not from their breakfast to your meal too, but the parts you did have were tasty. The day lazily drifted by. You pulled open the fridge again, lingering in the frosty air for a moment or two before grabbing a bottle of ice-cold water and taking a long drink. It was a perfect balmy summer afternoon, and you had decided to head outdoors and find something to do. You hadn't decided what that something was just yet, but you were sure something would pop up to occupy your time. You stepped out the front door and onto the street, deciding which way to go first when a voice caught your attention. Hi, Risa. Confused, you look over to where an unrecognizable woman was waving at you, a friendly smile plastered on her face. You racked your memory from where you might have seen her before, but nothing came to mind. Not your school, or from the country club your moms took you to, you had absolutely no idea who the woman was. The woman crossed the road towards you, and you were a little unsure whether you should stay put or go back into the house and lock the door. Oh my goodness. Oops, I'm sorry. Was that presumptuous? I've heard about you, but you have no idea who I am, do you? You shook your head, and she removed her sunglasses to reveal sparkly blue ocean eyes. Sparkly ocean blue eyes. All of a sudden, she seemed a little more familiar. My son lives here, and my ex, too. With a bent smile, she lifted a hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom. You didn't know why you hadn't realized sooner, now that you'd gotten a better look at her. She seemed nice. She seemed sort of strange. She looked really young. It made sense that she was Cove's mom. She felt so different to Cove. She was super pretty. This beautiful lady was Cove's mother? Wow. She extended a hand again, this time for you to take, and you studied the manicured fingers in front of your face and the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. I'm Kyra Priest. You can call me Kyra. And you shook her hand. You reached out and took her hand, and she shook yours firmly, grinning wide. You already know my name? That I do. Cove's mentioned you to me before. It's nice to officially meet you, Risa. He did? Cove and I aren't really friends. I've also heard that. Maybe that will change one day. What has Cove said about me? What are you doing here? Nice to meet you too. You kept quiet. She smiled at you a little, but said nothing else. You got the feeling she didn't want to spook you. The sound of a door opening and closing caught both of your attentions. When you turned around towards the sound, it was to find Cove exiting his house, his eyes skimming the ground. Considering just how tall he had grown, you kind of figured his mom also would have been tall, but she was much more on the short side for an adult anyway. Cove's height must have come from his father. There you are. I thought you were going to keep me standing out here all day. You said nothing as Cove walked over to the two of you. When he finally looked up, he noticed you were there and raised his eyebrows curiously. You couldn't quite tell if the expression that crossed his face was confusion or relief. Cove and I are heading into town to grab something to eat while the snore is at work. Kyra beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him more. You assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden. Hey, you should come with us, Risa. I'd love to get to know you better. Yeah, you should come. I feel like he just doesn't want to be alone with his mom. You were a little taken aback by Cove's agreement. You hadn't imagined being stuck with him and his suddenly appearing mom for the afternoon, especially not if he was going to be gloomy the whole time. Of course, we'll run it by your parents first, responsibility and all that. It'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to be neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on this street for the time being. Any whoosies, let's go. Any whoosies. Kyra walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who wrinkled his nose as he watched her. I'm sorry about her, but I really do want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us. Not right now. I didn't know your mom was coming over. Don't you usually go to where she is? Yeah, she's going to be staying with us for the summer. She just got here this morning. It was a surprise they planned. His face scrunched up more. You nodded in understanding. Cove had been through a lot with both his parents the past few years, and it seemed like it was still taking some time to adjust. The two of you headed over to where Cove's mom had just knocked on your front door and stood behind her. Mom answered the door after a minute, her eyebrows lifting in surprise at the group she found in front of her. You realized that, like you, she would have no idea that it was Cove's mom who was hanging with you. However, after blinking at the woman a couple of times and looking between her and Cove, the realization seemed to strike her. Hello there, I'm Pamela. I see you've met my kid Risa, and I'm guessing you've already known Cove for a while. Kyra laughed, and you and Cove exchanged looks at your parents' weird sense of humor. I'm Kyra Priest, Cove's mom. It's so nice to meet you. A head of purple-brown hair caught your eye as Ma popped up behind Mom, squeezing herself in beside her. We have company. I was wondering what all the commotion was. She grinned excitedly at Kyra. The two of them introduced themselves and shook hands. Hi, Risa, Cove. Cove smiled at Ma shyly, and she gestured a hand towards the living room. There's no use hanging around in the doorway. Why don't you come in? I'd love to, but I promised to take my son out to eat, and I wouldn't want to hold you up with a surprise visit. Cove grimaced. He likely took offense at how she didn't want to put them out with a surprise visit, but not him, apparently. Oh, I understand. You're welcome to stop by at any time. I'll take you up on the offer when I can. Count on it. Would you mind too much if Risa went with Cove and I? My treat. We won't be driving, just a quick walk down the road. Sure, that sounds nice.
Sounds fun.
I hope you all have fun. You gave your moms a look, and they smiled at you fondly. You're happy they were letting you go. You were annoyed they agreed just like that. Even if you had shown up with them, you and Cove didn't hang out often. The least they could have done was check with you first. Letting out a sigh, you resigned yourself to the fact that you didn't have much of a choice. Marvelous. Expect us back in an hour or two. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Your parents waved goodbye to the three of you as you backed up onto the street. There was the sound of the front door closing behind you. I'm pretty positive I saw some restaurants when I was in the taxi, not too far from here. Yeah, it's a tourist town, isn't it? There's a lot of them around. It was kind of strange to see Cove give someone this much attitude. Attitude, yeah. If he wasn't in the mood to be nice, he generally just kept to himself. Kara put her hands on her hips and smiled at her son. Well, you sound like the area expert. Do you have any recommendations for a place nearby? Not really. Kara pouted at him a little, then turned to you instead. How about you, Risa? Want to point me in the right direction? You shrugged. Not really. Sure, I have a couple of favorites. You nodded. Social anxiety. Shrug. You've been to a lot of places in town, but none of them really stood out. Well, let's head into town and see what we can find. Will you show us the way? You nodded, taking the lead of your little group as Cove and his mom followed behind you. Together, the three of you left the neighborhood behind. You walked around for a little while, looking at the different options and gazing into the various shop windows. Most of the restaurants you passed were filled with guests already, sampling the town's various food places. When you headed past a familiar place with gold writing on the glass and a red lacquered roof that you had always admired, you started to slow down. My family comes here all the time. It's really good. I think we have a winner. I've always loved Chinese food. Let's head on in. The restaurant was busy as usual, but luckily you were shown right to a small table. Kyra lowered herself into the chair, while Cove picked the one diagonal to her, not facing her or to her side. It was awkward. Let's see. To start, what would you all like to drink? I'll get an orange soda. Noted. Risa? Just water. Soda, milk, juice, coffee. Just water. Just water like the water I'm gonna drink right now. Lemon or anything? There's sugar on the table. Sometimes I have it with lemon. Fine, why not? Let's be fancy. Sure. Kara placed the order for your drinks, getting a black hot coffee for herself, and it didn't take long before they were brought out to the table and set in front of you. You took a long sip of your drink as you looked around the restaurant. Your small group checked over the menus, and you decided to order a usual thing. You had been to this restaurant many times, so you knew what was good and what wasn't already. Kyra and Cove didn't need any encouragement for this. They were totally focused on the information in front of them. Soon the meals, too, were ordered and menus taken away. You glanced at the table surface, waiting to figure out what to say. Cove awkwardly sunk back further into his seat and crossed his arms, all while blatantly avoiding eye contact. The side wall must be really interesting to him right now. His sour feelings today were unignorable. Instead of asking more open questions, he'd brush off. Kyra had mercy on her son and instead put her focus towards you. So, Risa, what's a few things you're into? There's gotta be something you do for fun, especially now that you're not buried in school assignments. Whoa, that's a lot. Music, art, writing, studying, fashion, reading, watching. Games are fun. I hang out with people. I go to the beach. I'm into sport. The games are fun. Video games. I don't know much about them. Maybe you can show me sometime. And I like to read. Manga. I haven't heard of that style, but I'm sure it's very good. I write. A fellow writer. Writing's a great form of expression, don't you think? Kyra sighed wistfully, her eyes going soft. Music. Type in your own instrument. I listen to a lot of it. I have an MP3 player at home that my mom helped me put some music on, and I've seen some concerts. Awesome. I still study sometimes. Studying in summer? I have to admit I don't know a lot of people enjoy that, but hard work is the key to getting what you want in life. And you don't say anything else. Thanks, I'm happy to learn more about you. There's so much I hadn't heard. Cove leaves the details out. So what exactly did Cove say about me? Kyra laughed, holding a hand in front of her mouth. I can't tell you that. I didn't come all this way to embarrass my son. Too much. Kids are delicate at this age. She laughed again, and you glanced at Cove to see his reaction. He cringed, looking very much like he would rather be anywhere but here. Hoping it would clear some of the tension in the air, you decided to ask Kyra a few questions of your own. Cove hadn't told you much about her, and you were curious to know more about this woman who is such a big part of his life. What exactly do you do for work? I'm a travel writer for magazines and things. I keep people in the loop on what's worth seeing. It's good work. Wow. Oof, that last one's the biggie. What do you like to do? Spend time with my little boy, of course, and traveling. A real shock, huh? Where do you live normally? Nevada. Have you ever been there? You shook your head. It's a beautiful place. Check it out if you can. I'm not getting there. I'm not going there. Didn't seem to bother her that the conversation dropped off. Aw, he's embarrassed. Cove sipped his soda angrily, slurping up the remaining drink with his furrowed brows. He looked ready to run straight out of the restaurant. You wondered if he was annoyed that you were spending the time talking to his mom, but he hadn't seemed to want to talk to her at all. You made a silly face at him, you smiled at him, you gave him a sympathetic look. You flicked his straw wrapper at him, you left him alone. You just quietly watched him until he finally noticed, and his ocean blue eyes met yours. It was subtle, but you swore you could see the hint of a smile tilting on the corner of his lips. You two seem really cute together. Cove covered his face with his hands and leaned back in his seat.
Seriously?
Ugh, Mom, why would you say that? You felt bothered too. You felt bothered. You blushed. Thanks, we are cute. No, that's for someone bold. You just laughed. You blushed. You felt bothered too. You and Cove weren't even friends, really. It seems strange for her to say something like that without really knowing you. Your meals were delivered shortly after that, and everything was so delicious even Cove enjoyed his food.
Okay.
Alright, now that we're all full and content, can you explain please why you've had a bug up your butt all day? Cove's face instantly returned to its scrunched form. Seriously, baby, what did Mom do to make you this mad? I haven't even been around a full day yet. He gripped the edge of the table, refusing to make eye contact. The words he spoke were barely audible over the din of the restaurant. You could have told me. She leaned forward, to not miss anything else, eyebrows raised. Told you what? He finally seemed to find his voice and spoke the thoughts that had been on his mind. That I wasn't going to visit you this year, that you were going to be coming instead. Didn't you invite me? You wanted me here with you? Cove's eyes began to shake and his frustration ebbed. I do want you to be around, but I didn't know it'd be like this. It's not the same, and nobody said anything. I see. Her expression grew tense. She threaded her fingers together and placed her hands in front of her on the table. We've both been given another Clifford surprise. A Clifford surprise, eh? Was that Mr. Holden's name? I don't remember. Referring to that as a Clifford surprise almost caused both you and Cove to crack a smile. You also had no idea his name wasn't just Cliff. Over 5 years, nobody had ever called him Clifford until now. She smoothed her hair out, not letting go her stern look. The more things change, the more they stay the same. They let out identical sighs, but smiled weakly at one another afterwards. I can go home, Cove. We can still set up a normal trip to my place before the summer ends. Cove's lips tightly closed together. He seriously pondered the option. I think I do want you to stay. I miss it when you're not there. My heart! She reached across the gap, grabbed his face, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Cove tried to wiggle away. Mom, stop. I'm sorry, sweet young men need to be smooched by their parents. If I don't, they'll take away my mom license. What? Kyra was completely enthused by Cove's admission, though a tone of seriousness did return to her voice when the conversation continued. Do you want to talk to your dad, too? No. Cove had snapped the word instantly, but reeled his annoyance back in just as quickly. Maybe later, not today. I understand. We can shelve it. Thanks, Mom. Thank you for talking to me, little mister. She grinned affectionately at him before turning your way. And thank you, Risa. Huh? What did I do? It's easy to act like a baby with your mom. It's harder to keep that up with your neighbor watching everything. Mom. She just ruffled his hair with a laugh, then moved her hand down to tap the end of his nose. And that was how the issue was resolved, at least between Cove and his mom. When the three of you left the restaurant and Kyra had paid the bill, you walked back to your neighborhood slowly. You had eaten so much by that time you were beginning to feel sleepy. It didn't help that the lunch had happened late, and the sun was already beginning to descend from the sky. But eventually you reached your street. Someone was there to greet your group upon arrival. Welcome back, family! And Risa, too. Cliff. Dad. The two walked past him into the condo without sparing another word. Despite the summer heat, their shoulders were cold. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. He rubbed the back of his neck with a crooked smile, but his eyes were soft as he looked on after them. He's so much like his mom, don't you think? You gave a vague nod, not sure what he was expecting you to do. He nodded back, far more energetically. Okay, have a nice night, Risa. You too, Mr. Holden. With that, Cove's dad disappeared to join the others inside. It was your turn to go home now. Summer hadn't started off at all how you imagined it would have, though it turned out to set the tone well. Having Kyra in the neighborhood was a new experience for not only you and Cove, but also both your families, and a dull moment was rarely had. Whew. And here we are. And here we stop.